So, certainly has been a crazy year for comics, but other than this year, because everybody's like performing from home and performing in parks, what do you think the strangest place that you performed in, as far as not being right for comedy?
For me? Okay. You
Hmm.
know, it's funny. I didn't know if you did an intro or anything. That's my
Oh
bad.
no, 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 no. We go right
um,
to it.
you know what? I lucked out. I lucked out because I haven't really. I did one Zoom, and that was a benefit to send children with cancer to camp. So and that was actually fine, but that was it. When everything shut down and everyone I know was like, "Yeah, you doing Zooms? You doing any Zoom shows?" I was reluctant. I was about to do Hofstadter and them's Nowhere Comedy Club.
Yeah.
I had watched Ian Edwards do his, and it was okay. I mean, Ian did amazingly, but the vibe was okay. But I just right before I did mine, the George Floyd incident happened, and I was like, I'm not. I wasn't feeling the vibe already, and then that just really took me out of a place of being funny, or
Hmm.
just feeling like giving people funny, I should say. And I lucked out, man. I you know, I avoided it because I love standing on that stage and the interaction too much to sort of bastardize it.
Yeah.
I just, for me, I was like, you know what, I respect everybody that did it. I respect everybody that is still doing it. I think it's great. I think the people that benefited the most from the Zooms were newer comics that were having a rough time getting opportunities to get mic time in some of the larger comedy clubs. And so I
Hmm.
think it was great to be a new comic and still have some sort of outlet, and also working under the pressure of only having two dimensions to figure out and formulate their ideas. And it forced people to work on their craftsmanship, right? They're writing a
Right.
little bit more. They couldn't rely on their physicality, or maybe their voices might have been able to. But I avoided most of them. I did one Instagram live show. My man Ali Sadiq out of Houston, from Last Comic Standing. Ali did something back. It's been about a year, about last April. It was called a Corona Comedy. Every Friday night, he had three. He was the host. He had three comics. He had a DJ. So it felt like one of the urban rooms back in the days where you'd have a DJ, and so the DJ played for about 20 minutes as people, start sort of gathered around their computers.
Right.
The host went on and he did 10 minutes he actually stood up and he had it set up where it looked like his own little home studio slash stage. And then when he bring in each comedian, it's split screen, and he stepped off the screen. I think that was key. He stepped off screen, but Ali Sadiq has one of the best laughs in the business, man, because having his laughter along with seeing people's applause emojis and laugh emojis, that motivated me. And I actually, that material, some of the stuff that I worked on for that particular material wound up in my special on Tiffany Haddish Presents They Ready season 2. In my episode, the final bit, this is what I call the Zoom bit, is what everyone's really calling it. That the genesis of that joke started on that Corona Comedy. So shout out to Ali Sadiq, because that helped me prepare months before I even knew I was doing taping, and then actually shooting the show, because we shot They Ready outside of Long Beach Terrace Theater out in California. And for myself, Godfrey, Tony Woods, Aaron Jackson, Barbara Carlisle, Kim Clark, and even Tiffany, we had to get acclimated to performing to an audience full of people with masks on while
Right.
they sat outside and while traffic went by. And so
Right.
this is for anyone that's listening. The reason most of the time people, when they shoot comedy specials, they do two tapings, is for exactly the reason we wound up doing it. Because the first night, aside from just having to get adjusted to performing to eyebrows
Mm-hmm.
and hearing laughs, but there's a disconnect when people like it still doesn't resonate. But also, Godfrey had two helicopters go by while he was on stage. Uh, Me, I had a light go out, and I had two loud motorcycles go by during my set on a Friday night. So by the time Saturday came, I think we were all more prepared, and we had a better understanding of what we were dealing with, and everybody knocked it out of the park on Saturday night.
Isn't that crazy that, this is a big moment. This is you're taping something
Yeah,
and you have to adapt to that environment,
yeah,
and everyone sort of looks at you as like, well, you better just do it. There's no like, you know what, it's
no,
not ideal, we'll come back next week, that kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
if you were in an office and the lights went out and there was a motorcycle driving through the office, you would say, we have to get out of the office.
We
We
probably should
can't.
relocate.
Yeah, we're gonna do this. Everyone gets to go home. But
Right.
in this business, it's like, hey, figure it out.
Yeah, man. Yeah, especially with stand up, in entertainment in general, anytime you're shooting something, there's a lot of money that's being spent for that day, just to book the theater, right?
Right.
Somebody, Tiffany Haddish, they ready, and Wanda Sykes and Paige Hurwitz's Pusher Productions, they spent a lot. They had a budget, and I'm sure a good amount of that budget went to just securing that location between probably Wednesday through when they broke down the stage and everything on Saturday night, early Sunday morning, right?
Yeah.
So for them to say, "Hey, can we do it next week?" is not an option, right?
Right. Yeah. Right.
So we're gonna find a way to make this work. And also, I think that's a testament to the comics that she chose. She knew, we all knew what we were getting into before we even shot it. We all knew, listen, we're shooting, we are all shooting comedy specials, for a worldwide platform like Netflix, during a pandemic, right? And we're shooting it during a pandemic where we have to, take all the safety precautions and protocols in consideration, and make sure the audience got tested, right? So that was something. So there were all these hurdles that you had to deal with it. And when Tiffany reached out, I'm sure she said to herself, who are comics I want to, help with this opportunity, give this opportunity to, that I know are going to, regardless of what we throw at them, regardless of what obstacles are faced in front of them, they're still going to put forth amazing sets. And I think that's exactly what they did. And I'm also biased saying that, but I think it's true.
No, I think you're absolutely right, because there are a lot of great comics that could shoot a special,
Yeah,
but there's a lot less comics that are great and can adapt to the
right.
situation that you have to be in.
Exactly.
Any
Exactly.
great comic can go into a packed room and kill,
Of course, right.
but
Right.
that's the dream. That's
Right.
that's shooting fish in a barrel.
Right,
But
right. Going
doing
on
it,
third, going
yeah,
on
right.
third in the middle of a showcase is the cushion spot.
Yeah, right, exactly. But doing it alongside the 101,
Right.
it's a little
Right.
different.
Exactly.
When you have a big moment like that, that's sort of not ideal in the sense the setting and stuff, you probably feel that you're ready for that. But did you have any moments before that, big moments in your career? And I think big moments for comics are always relative to where they
Mhm.
are. That in 6 months it might not be big, but it was big to you at that time. Did you
Yeah.
have any sort of moments like that where, like, this is it, this is a huge opportunity for me, that didn't go well or didn't go how you had hoped, and you sort of think that's it, it's done, and it
Right.
ends up not really killing you?
Right. You know what? I hope it doesn't sound arrogant. I've had such supreme faith in God and my creator, but also just in what I do,
Mm-hmm.
and my skill set, to where I've also been, not only logical but pragmatic in looking at situations and saying, I was in the military also. That
Mm-hmm.
helps a lot, and having a drill sergeant yell and sort of program you uh to suck it up and drive on. That was, something that was drilled into us during boot camp was, hey, private, got to suck it up and drive on, deal with it. And so I've never looked at any of the opportunities from what I can, in 20 was now 28, 29 years, I've never looked at something saying, damn, that's my big break and I blew it. Cause I'm always like, yeah, there'll be others. Even when I
Right.
was a kid, I was always like, my sort of mantra growing up was, well, I didn't die.
Yeah, that's
I didn't die,
great.
so I didn't die, so I have another chance to do it again,
Yeah.
and hopefully not blow it next time.
Yeah, someone told me that once after a show. Like I did do well, and I just was, you just feel horrible. And someone was like, "What's really the worst that could happen? The worst thing that could happen is that you die on stage.
Right,
That's the worst.
literally.
And as
Right.
long as you literally don't die on stage, it's okay. You
Exactly,
know."
exactly. So it's never been a question of, damn, I got this opportunity. I always, I think one of the benefits of living in the moment is you don't allow yourself to stress over it. You
Right.
don't, if you're stressing over it, the term stress means it's built in. You're gonna sit there worrying about things you
Right.
have no control over. When I screen tested for Saturday Night Live, I remember reading about Eddie Murphy's audition, right? And Eddie had seen, he was like, man, I remember when I auditioned for SNL, Garrett Morris and most of the original cast members had left. And so they were looking for the new black dude. And every black dude that you'd ever seen on TV, man, if you'd seen him in the commercial, he was like, remember that dude from the commercial for Chorus Line? Give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball, yeah. Right. And he was like, that, and I remember hearing that. I was like, I remember that dude. He said everybody was there and everybody was like, this is my big break. I gotta. And he said, man, he's like, look, man, I had fun. I went and I said, hey, man, have fun. So when the SNL test happened, I sat because I had said no to them at first because Mad TV had already offered me the gig. And I think me saying no made them say, oh, you want to get smart? Okay, we're gonna put you under the pressure. When I screen tested, I was the last person to go on that day. So I was sitting there mid-July, from about 12:30 p.m. till about 5:30. So imagine something you want so badly and you sitting around on ice and you're walking through the hallways seeing every other talented. I remember seeing Jeff Richards, who wound up booking the show that season as well and did Drunk Girl. Jeff was in the hallway. He was very friendly to me, which I appreciate because everybody, people are competitive and cliquish,
Right.
and a lot of the sketch performers knew each other. So I'm just sort of wandering the halls, like saying, "Hey guys," and you know, and I was sitting in Anna Gosteyer's dressing room all day, and that can take a toll on you. But again, suck it up and drive on. I was like, all right, man. Well, it is what it is. And then when they called me, you walk through, and I just kept, make sure you have fun, have fun, have fun. And then by the time I got on home base, where every host has delivered their monologue since 1975, I submitted to the words "just have fun," and I saw the monitor. The camera had a monitor on top of it, and so I could see myself with the backdrop of the stage of Saturday Night Live behind me, and I broke down. I was like, "Yo," So when Lauren Michaels was like, "Dean, thanks for coming," I'm like, "Yo, thanks for having me," because I was just so excited, just to have the opportunity, man. And that's for me, that's really how I've looked at not just my career, but just most things in life is just, make the best of them, make the best of the moment. They ready, I made the best of it. It turned out well. When DMX passed away, it reminded me of a show I had done. My second TV show was Showtime at the Apollo, back in 98, 97 actually, and it aired in 98. And I had to follow DMX. I had to follow DMX, LL Cool J, And ironically, because it's 420 Redman and Method Man, I had to
Oh
follow
my God.
before I had to go on immediately following them doing this song 4321. And most people backstage were nervous, but I'm such a hip hop head. I was backstage like, yo, I'm ready, and I got excited. And I guess after the fact, like I think you said, after you ever had something after the fact that you reflected on? I remember afterwards saying, well, that could have gone bad. That could have gone bad.
Right, right, right.
But I think because I just submitted to the joy of being, in such a high energy space, and being able to jump on the wave that they had already begun, that helped me, instead of allowing fear to weigh me down. I just rode the wave of their energy, and just took their energy and carried it on through my set, and had a great set.
I think that's such a sign of a
I
great
talk a lot. I'm
comic.
sorry, I just go. I
I
just
love it. I love it. Sometimes we get on here and I'll say people, have you had any bad shows? And they'll go, yeah. And that'll be it. And I'm like, all right, well, this is going to be a long 30 some minutes.
It's funny.
This is great. But I think that's such a sign of a good comic that, you know, you want, ideally before you want it to be a hot room. You
Yeah, man.
want it to be excited
Yeah.
because, you sort of see some comics rooting for people before them to bomb.
Mhm.
They want to,
Yeah.
like, they don't want to be overshadowed or have to work too hard. But it's like, that's hard. That's hard to go up to an ice cold room and
Yeah. Yeah.
dig the show out of it. When someone goes
Right.
up there and sets the table for you, all you have to do is go up and keep going.
Right.
Just
Just
keep the
eat.
fun.
Just
Right.
eat.
Yeah.
The
That's a
table
great
is set. The fork, the knife, your meal is in front of you. Just
right.
consume the food, man.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's
But
great.
you know
And
what? That's also insecurity. Like a lot of dudes, I know comics that bring weaker comics on the road with
yeah.
them for the sole purpose of making themselves look better.
Yeah.
And I live by the phrase "steel sharpens steel." If I'm on the, I want the heat, I want the smoke. Before I
Right.
go on. You know what? I love working at the Cellar in New York, or the clubs that are part of the Cellar: Fat Black Pussycat, Village Underground, and Olive Tree and Cafe Y, as well as the Cellar. Because on any given, I had to go on after Louis C.K. and Ray Romano last week. But to me, that reinforces that I'm nice at this.
Right.
If I can follow, or not just myself, but if you're a comic and you can follow people that have achieved um levels of commercial success and levels of commercial greatness, and also respect from their peers and from the industry, you can follow that says something about yourself, and reinforces that you're doing the right thing, you're on the right path. Because if you're around nine amazingly talented and successful performers, you're going to be the 10th. If you're around 9 or 10 garbage cans, you're going to be the 10th garbage can. So,
Yeah. That's such a good way to look at it. That one, that you belong, you
yeah,
belong there, and that it makes you better. It
exactly.
really pushes you
Exactly.
to do better. So you have all of these things working for you right now. Let's
Mhm.
go back to the early days
Yeah.
where you are just looking for any stage time you can get.
Yeah.
Those first couple of years where you're saying yes to things that you have no business saying yes to.
Fashion shows
Yeah,
in churches,
right.
synagogues.
What do you think from those early formative years where, God, some days you're just hanging on by a thread? What are this? Is there a show that you remember that sort of you get there and you're like, what am I doing here? Like, this is crazy.
I remember my real first bomb was right after the I'm dating myself here, but right after the Rodney King riots.
Oh my God.
Right after the Rodney King riots, man, I started I think they were in maybe April. So this is what, 92. So this is going back 29 years, man. When I first started, I started in February, and the riots happened, I want to say March, April, and my first couple of shows crushed it. I'm floating on the high of the adrenaline of getting laughs for the first time. Plus, Def Comedy Jam had just premiered right after I had started, so there was sort of this new buzz of energy for comedy, and people wanted to be satiated with comedy. And I'm doing this club. I'm in college at the time, upstate New York, up in Rochester, and the riots happened. And I remember probably sitting around with my friends joking, and joking about, man, if I was out there and all these things that were funny to my friends, and then I went, it was bad. I went to perform at this club. I don't know if it was called Hiccups or Scorgies, but I used to tape all of my sets. So I have a copy of this set somewhere downstairs and in my basement. I set my camera up, and so all you see is the stage, this brightly lit stage, and then like the silhouette of about 4 or 5 heads facing the stage. So I go on and I attempted it because that's the thing. Like, people of color and all of my Jewish friends, we take tragedy and we flip it, right? We flip it
Yeah.
into something funny. That's the nature of being downtrodden and being oppressed, is that you make light of bad situations and find the funny in them. But this particularly posh crowd in Rochester, New York, they were not laughing, yo, and it was the first time I felt all of the moisture leave my throat, and suddenly I was faced with cotton mouth. Where my tongue? Why is my tongue sticking to the top of my throat? What? It's so dry. Yo, and it was bad, man. And I remember the moment I realized it was rough was when one of the people, I don't know what I said, but one of the people sitting in the front row hit me with a pondering look, a bewildered look, if you will. They were
Yeah.
like this, and then they looked at the person next to them and then looked at me again. And I remember saying, I don't know what that did, but that stole my soul out of my spirit. It crushed it. I laughed through it because I was charming and I still had Suck It Up and Drive on, but I was crying inside, dude. And then at the end of the show, I think I was the last comic, and they probably had me going last because I had been doing real well. So they gave me sort of that anchoring spot on the show. And then after I finished, the show ended and my camera's still going. So as I go to retrieve my camera, you just see people standing up and walking out silently. And I just walk up to the camera. That's exactly what you don't do. You don't, to Dean, future Dean, remember this and don't ever do that again.
Oh my God. You
That was
could not
tough.
have said it better by saying they captured my soul. Like, because
Yeah,
that
dude.
moment is so true for comics.
Yeah.
There is, I mean, we all bomb, of course, you have to, but
Right.
there are those moments when you're on stage and you're getting nothing and you just something clicks and you're like, they, I have nothing
You got
inside of me.
nothing.
I
And
have
that and that's the
nothing.
thing. When you're newer, when you're as you've been doing it long enough to where I pretty much know I can always go on stage and win. Even
Mm-hmm.
if I just do old material that I've done on TV or established material that I've done on tour. But when you the closest to bombing that a comic that's been a veteran and been doing it for a long time, the closest they experience is when they throw out a new idea, right? When they pose some new idea they formulated in their living room, their kitchen, bedroom, bed, whatever, in the car on the way to the club, and you throw it out there and you just get just the crickets, man. And you're doing it long enough so you know how to pivot out of it.
Right.
But still, if you slow things down for that split second before you as a veteran have some funny quip like, no, not to do that again, and the crowd laughs. You want them back, but that small millisecond of doubt, and that's really that's the killer of comedy, of the laughs, is just the doubt, because you've had people here and then you lose their trust, right? You lose their
Right.
trust because
Right.
they're like, wait, they're like, oh man, I love, hey, why'd you say that? It's almost like they're mad. Why would you do that to us?
Yeah, right. We
We
were having a great
entrusted you.
time.
We were
Yeah.
having a good time, right? Right? And what the hell? And then
Yeah.
you take it personally, because unlike pretty much every other form of entertainment, whether it's singing, whether it's performing a dramatic piece on stage in the theater, whether it's playing a song, you know, the thing about stand up in comparison, even compared to sketch or improv, stand up is just you, mind, and your microphone, mouth, mind,
Right.
mic, and these are your thoughts. You thought this up, wherever you were, and you thought this was going to work, and it didn't.
Yeah.
And you feel like, damn, I failed. Now, over time, you get to a place of comfort where you're comfortable in the silence, because during that silence, you might be setting them up for some bigger payoff, right?
Right.
But it takes a long time to get comfortable in that silence, because people get used to these formulas. I need at least one big laugh every 7 seconds. I'm like, all right, if it's not mathematics. I mean, it is, but it
Right.
isn't.
Yeah, I think about there are a lot of comics that do that. They
Right,
specialize in that
right,
every other line.
right.
But you also think about some of the just killers that have come before, and they had an act. They had a whole it wasn't just every
It
joke.
was
It
a
was this whole
tapestry.
experience.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
and you said it best with talking about being present, being in the moment. That is really what it is. Sort of just being in that moment, knowing that there's something else coming,
Yeah,
and that feeling when you have an audience on the edge of their seat and it is quiet and
yeah,
you can hear a pin drop and you're
yeah.
like, they have no idea.
Right,
I'm
right.
about to just come across and sucker punch them,
Exactly,
Oh,
exactly.
that's the best. That makes it all worth
It
it.
makes it worth it. It makes it worth
Yeah.
it because they entrusted you, and even though there are people out there that might have doubted, or there are people that are easily distracted, and maybe they're on their phone and not paying attention, when you hit the surprise of the joke, of the bit, when you hit it and everyone explodes, you're like, I got you. That's
Yeah.
what it's like. It's like, yeah, I got you. You thought you weren't gonna you thought you weren't gonna climax, and I made you climax. You didn't even expect that.
Oh my God. That is it. That is
That's what
absolutely
I
it.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you have anything now? It's different, I'm sure. Now you don't have the tragedies of bad shows that you might have had when you were younger, but do you have anything that you used to do or that you still do, maybe after a bad set, something doesn't go well, that you like to do, that sort of is like a coping thing or a ritual or a habit that sort of pulls you out of that?
What did I used to do? Like when I would catch L's, when I catch just a serious L, I probably just go and sit and talk myself out of the sunken place.
Right, right,
It's
yeah.
just wait, it wasn't literally me sit, but it was almost like talking to yourself in the mirror, like, you know what, you're good enough, you're big enough, you're smart enough, and I like you. You'll be
Yeah.
fine, Dean. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's gonna get okay. You'll be
Right.
better. Just I remember one time somebody sent me a couple of years ago on Facebook. Someone sent me this long. I probably have it somewhere in my phone. Somebody sent me a long comment under a picture that had nothing to do with whatever they were talking about. And they were like, "Hey, Dean, you don't remember me? Years ago, I saw you at a club in Patterson, New Jersey, and after your set, I came up to you and said, 'Hey, man, you should quit.'" Now hold up. Now just think about psychologically. You're only a few years in, and someone doesn't say to you, Yeah, man. Yeah, tonight was your night. They say you should stop. You
Right.
need to stop doing this. Stop doing this to yourself. Stop doing it to us. Right? This dude told me you should quit. And he says, and it always impressed me that you said, oh, well, you know what? I won't do that, but I'll work on getting better. Like whatever I said is something that you say you have like a certain supreme confidence. Some people might say arrogance, but I think I was just that full of myself. And all it took, listen, in my mind, all it takes is having one big show. Because once you have one big show, you always have something to lean on. And so I
Yes.
always, if nothing else, anytime things didn't go well for me, I would always say, yeah, but I had that show. I did that one show at Geneseo, SUNY Geneseo, and I got $500. Like you do that
Right. Right.
and you justify. You're like, I must be good because that show everybody was laughing. And so you always have to, if you can focus on the successes, and I think especially in our industry, a lot of guys don't. A lot of guys and gals, a lot of us, it's easy to get caught up in sort of a depressed state of being and state of mind because you know it's comedy as far as what happens on stage is merit based, right?
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know you might go on and crush, I might go on and crush, and then the next person goes on and bombs, and then the person after them goes on and crushes. The person that caught an L, that bombed, they internalize that.
Mm-hmm.
They internalize that, and it could have just been something as simple as they were attempting to do something new. Maybe they were experiencing something, and that the lesson for them is, you know what, I gotta make sure that I don't bring that on stage with me next time. There are ways to sort of shake the dust of fear and frustration off
Right.
and not internalize it. But as you know, a lot of us do internalize it because it's so personal, and these are things that you created. Imagine
Right.
imagine the first time Stevie Wonder wrote Ma Cherie Amour, and he didn't sing it, he just read it to someone. Ma Cherie Amour, lovely as a dumb summer day, distant as a Milky Way. And Smokey Robinson's like, distant as the Milky Way,
Right.
somebody might have heard him like, oh man, now I don't know about that, little
Yeah.
Steve. You gotta work harder on that. Because he created that came from him, versus
Right.
someone saying, here, sing this song, and you sing it and people don't like it. You can say, oh well, I didn't write those lyrics, someone else wrote those lyrics. With stand up, you created those jokes, you created those ideas, and you live and die by them. And that's the thing,
Yeah.
you got to take the crooked with the straight. If you're happy receiving all the positive energy and accolades when people are laughing and celebrating you, you got to say, you know what, that didn't go well, I could have worked harder, I got to work on that bit, and not internalize it. I don't take any of it overly seriously, because I know, this is peaks and valleys, man.
Yeah, and it's such a long ride, you
Yeah,
know. And
yeah,
and if you're really good at it, the ride never stops. Like
exactly.
that's the goal, is
I
that you
mean, Mel
just
Brooks is
stay
still
on.
going. Mel Brooks is still doing his thing, and that's what I aspire to continue to create, and do something I love, keep the family happy, and keep people, lighten the mood in the world a little bit more than where it currently is. I think that's the win, and that's, it sounds hokey to some, but the journey is dope, man, because you constantly are in a state of, this is earning a living as a stand-up comedian is dope. you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I was telling someone last week, I said, I think Marina Franklin, I said, what, comedy keeps you young. Comedy is like the fountain of youth, because we're constantly, there is healing in telling jokes and making people laugh, and that it's reciprocal. So we're putting out that positive energy, and the laughs are feeding us and keeping us youthful. So I'm gonna keep doing it, man. I'm
Yeah.
76 years old. Look at my skin.
Yeah, and that's just from me 20 some years of comedy. You know. It's crazy. It really is. Just it's one of those things, and isn't it like you notice it the most when this is such a youth giving business where you can have a comic who's 20 years old, a comic who is 70 some years old, and they're talking as if they are,
Yeah.
roommates.
Yeah.
That
Peers, man.
it's such a good unifier.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, we could talk about bombing and stuff like that, but when's the last time you brought up a great point of sort of being like, oh, this is awesome, this is a great way to make a living? When's the last time that you sort of looked around and you go, wow, this is pretty crazy that I'm here, this is pretty cool, like I can't believe that person's here, or I'm in this
Right.
place, just something you'd never would have dreamed of seeing, and you're like, comedy got me here, that's pretty
Right.
awesome.
I mean, anytime you're around, like I said last week, seeing Louis and Romano,
Yeah.
in the space. Anytime you're sitting and kicking it with Chris Rock, you know,
Right.
and Chris is, he's shared his wisdom and dropping jewels, and you're sitting there like, I remember watching this dude from my living room,
Right.
and meeting Eddie Murphy, multiple times, and being in the same space and making him laugh and him laughing, those moments. And they constantly continue being around Chappelle, being friends with Chappelle and Chappelle, you know, because you don't want to be the dude. Here's what's funny about the idea of success and celebrity is when you're around, people that are more famous than you, right? You don't want to be the dude that says, "Hey guys, can we take a picture?"
Right.
Right,
Right.
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 Like a couple of weeks ago, I was in LA, and I'm friends with Craig Robinson, and Craig and I have known each other since we did Def Jam in the mid '90s, and Craig is killing the game. He just got a new house, and he was like, "Hey man," he was like, "You know what, you Rich, y'all come over so we can watch the NCAA finals." So I'm like, "Yeah man, let's do that." I'm in LA, so I'm out in LA, I land, I hang out with my boy Rich and get a haircut, and then we go to Craig's, and Craig's house is very nice. Craig's house. Craig has a Craig's house is when you walk in, you're like, oh, so this is that masked dancer money, huh?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
this is that office masked dancer, Pineapple Express, time machine, whatever,
Yeah.
time
Right.
machine, payoff, and you're proud. I'm sitting there proud, but I'm also like, yo, this is dope. Comedy,
Yeah.
comedy did that because we were
Right.
we were in the same clubs, we were sitting in the same clubs and same hole in the wall spots, whether in New York City or Chicago or LA, and talking about dreams and, "Damn, man, I just got to book, I need to book something out of here." And then to see the fruits of the hard work and the labor, man, pay off. And that's constant. And that's a constant motivation because, again, if I'm seeing my man, my good friend winning like this, I'm like, oh, then I'm winning, because it's
Right.
it's a it's a it's a collective effort, we all, I shine, you shine, we shine.
Yeah. There really is something to be said about the comedy doing well.
Yeah,
Like that's a
yeah,
win for the team. That is a
yeah,
team
man.
win.
Yeah,
You
dude.
know.
Shoot. If anyone that's friends with Russell Peters is probably one of my oldest comedy friends. And for me, I remember a couple of years back, I ran into him, I hadn't seen him in a while, and I was like, "Yeah, I gotta fly out to LA." He was like, "Oh, where are you staying?" I said, "I'm probably stay with Ian Edwards." He was like, "Oh, you want to stay at my house?" I was like, "Well, I already told Ian." He was like, "You get your own room." I was like, "Oh, okay." He was like, "And if you want, you can use the guest car." I was like, Ian, so here's the thing. But then, and here's a dude that we used to do shows up in Toronto and Buffalo and Western New York,
Yeah.
together. And so to see that he's Forbes level
Right.
successful, financially successful, as a comedian, all that does is motivate. All that does is make me say, all right, it's out there. You just got to work hard and go get it. It's from stand up, from comedy.
Yeah, man, that's such a great way to look at this, and a great way to look at the business where other people would look at that and go, why didn't I get that? Why, what, and get sort of depressed by it. But
And which to me is insane, because instead of worrying about why you didn't get it, be happy for somebody that you were just next to that did get it, because that means, oh, you know what, that means if they could get it, that means I can get it. Tiffany
yeah,
Haddish did that with They Ready. She's on, and she's like, all right, you know what, Netflix, if y'all want to give me this opportunity, I'll take it, but you gotta give some of my friends an opportunity to not only
yeah,
be stand-ups but also be executive producers on their specials. And that to me goes back to your own self-confidence, your own inner light shining, and your own she's comfortable enough in her own skin to say, what, if I'm giving um now 12 comedians opportunities to have their own specials and to produce their own specials, that's not taken away from me. That's better for me, because
right.
again, back to the energy. If the more good you put out, the more good comes back to you. So which is why Tiffany continues to win.
Right, right. It's one of those feelings that like when you have a friend, you have a friend that of your group, your class that finally gets passed at the cellar,
Yeah,
and you're like,
yeah,
wow, it's like that moment in Rocky where he cuts uh Ivan Drago, and they're like, he's
yeah,
a man, he can be cut,
yeah,
and you're
yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's just a club, it
yeah,
can be,
yeah,
it's
yeah, man.
you can
Be
do
more
it.
man than him.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Be more man than him. I the tiger. I the tiger. Yeah.
Oh my God. What a
Drago!
Yeah, yeah.
Drago!
That's what I'm doing outside the cellar every weekend. They haven't called, but I just yell. I'm just wearing
Look,
Rocky shorts and
look.
yelling.
Este's walking by. Why is this young man? Why is he outside screaming?
Yeah, yeah. He
He's
took the
scaring the homeless
analogy to
people.
heart. Yeah, right. Yeah,
He's scaring the crazy homeless people.
yeah. Oh my God, man. I can't thank you enough for doing this. This was
Oh,
so fun.
no doubt, man.
Um,
Likewise.
please tell people where to find you, where they can hear you, where they can see you.
Yo, y'all can catch me on my social media at I am Dean Edwards, mainly on Instagram. I have a Facebook fan page, follow that too, but on Instagram at I am Dean Edwards. I just started on TikTok. I gotta get busier on that. I'm very lazy, but I'm getting better. But Instagram, and every Monday night we have a podcast called the Father Monkin Protocol Live, where I have some of my favorite and closest friends that are in entertainment come through, and we've had everybody from Tiffany Haddish, obviously, Godfrey, Dion Cole, Jim Gaffigan, Sebastian Maniscalco, Angela Johnson. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary and had our 52nd episode last week. Last night was 53. So every week I've been doing that. I'm going to continue doing that even as we come out of the pandemic, because people seem to like it, and it gives a lot of pretty much what y'all are doing here. It gives people a lot of insight and behind the scenes, and really just people sharing their stories and their journeys, pivoting and navigating in the realm of entertainment. And it's also we're putting the episodes on YouTube now, because I know everyone's not on Instagram. So if you go to YouTube, I am Dean Edwards, you can see, I think there are about 20 episodes up. We're not doing them in order, and also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. So doing my best to expand it so people have access to it
Right.
wherever they do podcasts.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure people know about it, and for the one or two people that are listening, they haven't heard, they know now.
Boom.
Thank you so much for doing this, dude. I really appreciate it.
No doubt. Thank you, Collin. I appreciate it, man. If I see you standing out in front of the cellar in red, white, and blue Apollo Creed shorts, I'll tell the club, and specifically the security, it's fine. He's just aspiring to something bigger.
Yeah, right. He's manifesting. He's
manifesting. Gotta manifest.
Oh man, thank you so much.
Thanks, bro. Thank you.